Hey everybody, the original intent of this live stream is I was going to talk about the NBA draft, right? But then I happened to check as I was going online Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy from yesterday, and I thought, let me see if they put up that video they were talking about. And they put up a video. You know, I don't know if it's the video, but it's a video. So I'm going to do two live streams. I'm going to do one, this one, where I give you an update on what Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy put out, and then do another one, depending on how this goes, about the draft. If this one gets to a point where it's just overwhelmingly with a lot of people, right, then I won't switch over. Because it's Thursday night and most people are out, and I don't blame them. Heck, I was going to be out, right? But let me show you what's going on here. And let me, if you don't know with the story, let me recap. Um, First of all, I'll take all questions after I give this little presentation, okay? And then you can ask your questions, and I don't want to interrupt my train of thought, so hold on. This started when Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy discovered that, who are you say, who are they? Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy are a couple. They are Richard and Joy Lightlauer. They've been in Las Vegas for 6 years, or since I believe November 2013, they told me. And they started this photography business recently and started making videos of, well, different happenings around Las Vegas. Not always in a kind of an irreverent style, right? Anyway, like a number of people in Las Vegas, were people who relocated to Las Vegas in the case of Scott Winter to focus on the Raiders building the stadium. There was been a lot of activity around that, a lot of media people trying to build their own blogs and do their own thing and all that, right? Report on what's happening. They're one of them. However, unlike some of the other people that are involved, or most of the other people, I should really say all of them, save for two, Jedi Rich and Jedi Joy have tried to get in and just not so much. I don't think their idea was to get the truth. They just wanted to find out what was happening. And so, being what they appear to be, which is personable, they managed to get down into the bowels of the stadium on a, I believe it was a Sunday when no one was working, and they had an obvious escort to get down there. They had someone who was not just an insider, a real insider. So somebody had made a comment or tried to, oh, they don't have an insider. No, 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 no. That means you weren't paying attention to what they were doing, because that's how I noticed them. They had a strict insider. So I started paying attention to what they would do. Anyway, last week they reported that the truss, one of the trusses that was originally installed, was in the process of being removed, and they hadn't put it back hadn't put it back, and so they made a video about this, and I amplified their discovery, and there was this hue and cry about the issue, and apparently Rick Villado of the Las Vegas Review-Journal didn't take kindly to this upstart group of media folk horning in on his territory, and so I blocked Rick, but they started to engage with him on Twitter, and he accused them of saying there was a delay, there wasn't. Says, why don't you go and call them? Well, they did better. They say they went and they talked to the actual workers, and they didn't put them on camera. Now I thought they put them on camera, and they didn't. All right, so they said they're gonna come out with this video that explains more, and I thought this was that video. It's not that video. What it is a video where I'll show it to you. See if you can hear. I don't want to play the whole thing, because that'll be a copyright violation. But I want to give you some of the anger that it all occurs in the pool, okay? 20-degree weather, or even just under pressure. Here it is. Let's start here. Here. Of the impact
attacked because they're gonna have to work in 120-degree weather. It's not right. Just admit you're late. Delay it. Get more people there. Do whatever you have to do, but stop lying, because you're late and you still don't even know how to fix the problems, because there's still a crane attached to the truss that we've been talking about this whole time, and that one is still not fixed. And no one would admit they're late. And the crew is the ones that could potentially die when they are working in 120-degree weather, or even just under pressure because their bosses won't admit to the public that they're late. Why? Who cares if you're late? Is it better for someone to die than to admit you're late? Ask yourselves that. Is it better for one of the workers to die than to admit you're late? Who gives a fuck if you're late except for maybe some money? Is that why we're not admitting? Because someone has to pay some money? Of course that's why we're not admitting. Because someone has to pay money. So let's just risk the workers' lives because someone doesn't want to pay some extra money and admit they were wrong or made a mistake like all fucking humans do once in a while. Things go wrong because we are not in control of the force. We, the force, we have to work with. But the force flows. And when you keep going against it, things are going to happen. Time and time again. This is the first time we've come at you guys and you acted like you weren't late because there was a once in a 10-year snowstorm that you guys, I guess, had anticipated for. Good on you! Once in 10 years and you guys knew it was coming this year? Or last year, whenever that was now? Oh, it's 2018 now? I can't even keep track. But remember that one where for like 5 days you couldn't really work because of the snow in Las Vegas? But we were told everyone anticipated for that one. Yeah, just like they're anticipating for the fact they don't know why they can't lift any more trusses because the trusses don't work. Because you messed up. Which is fine. People can take mistakes, but they can't keep taking lies and lies and lies that can result in death. That's all I gotta say today. And I'm gonna...
All right, so you get an idea of what's happening, and that's explosive. And what she's basically saying is that, look, and they have a series of photographs. They say that the crane that is used for this truss, so this is what they're saying from the video. They haven't written this out yet. And I need to get them on the show to get clarification because this is no small potatoes. They're basically claiming that the crane that replaced that truss is still in the same place. And here's what they're talking about. See, this is day 20, okay? June 20th, excuse me, day 37, what they call the truss fuss, okay? And so they've also taken in their explanation to direct their, I want to say their, how would I say it, their attention to Don Webb. And in so doing, day 37 truss fuss, okay? Here it is. It says, it's been 37 days since the crew has been able to use Jaws, the big white crane. Jaws is currently suspending the truss that was mounted on May 14th of 2019. They had to bring the truss down and put, a little typo here, put it back up because it was 8 inches out of what's called plumb. However, that was last week. They must not have solved the problem, so they have to suspend the truss indefinitely, otherwise it will collapse. In the meantime, the crew has brought in another crane, the Barnhart. Good thing they have 3 cranes right now because Jaws is being used as a reverse paperweight. Wait, wow, okay? Then they go on here, all right? That's that's what they're saying. They're saying that the truss is being, they're using the truss to have it suspended in air. That's what she's saying. It's like it's being held there. It's being held in. That's it. It's being held there. Okay, that's what she's saying. So then she says, the thing is, Don, if your crony Rich Vallada had not made such a big stink about not being late back in March on Twitter, then the Jedi would not have noticed a thing. Instead, Rick wouldn't stop giving us reverse intel through his online tweeting. I told you, because Rick Vallada couldn't leave them alone, he pissed them off and he made them look for things, okay? And that is in part how this got to where it was, because Rick was not being a good person. And this is really Rick Vallada's fault. It's in a good way. In a good way because I'm finding out information because they got mad. But in a bad way because it took Rick making somebody mad to get the information out like this. But the whole thing is stupid. I mean, it really is. And it doesn't really serve. It serves the public good, but that media had to be done this way because someone was pissed off, as opposed to the old style, which is where you had a good investigative reporting team working together, finding out what's going on, which is the way it should be, right? That's what you should have. But that's not the case here. This all happened because Rick Vallada pissed off a couple of local Las Vegas vloggers and they went to work. So, stupid. I mean, really stupid. And so anyway, he says, instead, Rick wouldn't stop giving us reverse intel through his online tweeting. So they say May 14th. That's the crane we used to hold the trust in place. That was trust in place. That was May 14th, all right? Then, June 14th, okay, they're claiming it's the same thing. Now, they have to be careful because that could be, these are snapshots. That could be different trusses. But their point is it's the same location. So they would say it's the same location. Then June 16th, you see there, all right? Now, this is where you have to have Don talk about it, because here it's quite clear that the trust, it is a trust. I don't know if it is the trust, but it is a trust. That's on Father's Day. And then her point is that on June 17th, there, it was put back in place. So that's what they're showing, the timeline of when it was held in and it was finally used to be put back in place. And then she says, that you scroll down here, right? It says, where was Don Webb on Father's Day? Okay, and there you have Webb working 321, and there's Don Webb. First time I've seen Don trolled, okay? And they had reported that the Raiders were adding a third shift due to trust delay on the 18th. So the bottom line, folks, here is that, yeah, there's a problem, unquestionably a problem. And the ultimate blame has to go to the Raiders for the unprofessionalism of not having a weekly update. Let me give you an example of how different this project is from Salesforce Transit Center. Salesforce Transit Center, a project by the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority that was created by Miria Kaplan, had weekly press updates. Even if they had nothing to report, they would report that they had nothing to report, except what they reported the week before, right? This is entirely different. And so what you have is you have a situation here where you're not getting any updates whatsoever, none. You have too many of them, and too many. See, what I'm trying to say is you don't have enough people reporting on this, and there's too much time between when you hear something at the next Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting, and the Stadium Authority meeting is roughly 2.5 months apart. That's far different from Salesforce. Therefore, because of that, when there was a steel cracking problem, you knew about it immediately, okay? You knew about it immediately when there was a steel cracking problem. And by contrast, there could be a myriad number of problems with this project, but because they don't have a standard way of reporting to the media what's happening, you don't know about them. And what happens is that it's not that they don't occur, but problems like this cause good people to work longer hours in the 120-degree heat of Las Vegas. They're not happy about it, and so they're going to talk to someone about it. And in a social media environment, guess what? Those problems get out. And that's precisely what happened in this instance. And this is really a boneheaded something that occurred because of the Raiders attempting secrecy. Now, in truth, while SB1, the Senate bill that caused this project to occur, does not, or rather prohibits or allows the minders, the Raiders, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, and others involved to not talk about financial issues. It doesn't mention anything about construction issues. There's no reason why this project should not have a better sunshine plan, okay? Hey, Pedro, how you doing? Now I'll take your questions. Isaac Padilla asked a question having nothing to do with this. Do you think the Oakland is going to lose the A's? No. I think, look, let me put it this way, Isaac. I'm going to say something. Anyone who asks me that question is not paying attention to what's happening with the A's ballpark. Pay attention. Okay? The A's would not go to, and successfully, I might add, the California State Assembly with win after, and gain win after win in key areas, in key legislation, of the passage of key legislation that will give them funding, the funding they seek to build the ballpark. I know there are a lot of skeptics out there, but it's something that has plagued Oakland for most of its post-war life. This idea, particularly during the 70s, and it became an entirely black city, and it's like the overarching white structure thought you can't do this, or this you can't do that. So part of this is I call it a lingering idea of that they can't because they're minority. And I think it's very ugly, all right? So it's very ugly. So, but the bottom line is, I think, yeah, we're going to get a stadium. And it's going to be beautiful. It's going to transform Oakland. Raider Gann says, we have too many commentators in sports. They all have the same format and encourage group thought. Eric Richard says, hello. Pedro Gallar says, delay until 2021. We'll see, Pedro. It's beginning to look weird. Eric Richards, I'm going to give you just a few seconds to take down your question, or I'm not going to allow you to post at all. I've never seen you here before, or if you're here and you are the same person being someone else, I will boot you immediately, okay? So take that down. If I see it up within the next 20 seconds, all right, and you have actually time, give you time in terms of the delay, all right, I will remove it and I'll remove you. All right, now, I'm very serious about that. You come here, you don't come to screw around. Get out. Thank you. Okay, so he removed it. Thank you very much. All right. Now, moving along. As far as where we are with this stadium, here's the other bit of information, and it's this. I was informed that by the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority Executive Director that the Raiders have until April 1st of next year to inform them of whether or not they're going to extend the lease. Okay? So if the Raiders have not made up their mind by April 1st of next year, and this is no April Fool joke, they will be eliminated. The JPA will make up their minds for them. It won't be a situation like this year where the Raiders, strung them out and strung them out and strung them out. No, no, no. If they don't have their minds made up by next year, April 1st, then the Coliseum will evict the Raiders. I repeat, if the Raiders do not have their minds made up what they're going to do next year by April 1st, the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority will evict the Raiders. And I will say this one more time. If the Oakland Raiders do not make up their mind regarding whether or not they're going to extend the lease, by April 1st of 2020 at 5 p.m., they will be evicted. There are a number of people. Noel Gallo said it. He says, I don't want to go beyond 2 years. I want him out of here. Okay? He said that on camera, on Zinni62 here. There are a number of people who are very upset with the Raiders and how they've treated the city of Oakland. And this is not necessarily a case of, well, cooler heads will prevail. No, those folks are still pissed off. Okay? And the Raiders not doing anything to celebrate that they're still in Oakland this year isn't helping. I mean, so the Raiders get extra time for their lease. They work out a deal that, hey, it's more rent, yeah, but they can afford it. All right, and what do the Raiders, and with the assistance of the NFL, do? They turn around and arrange all these away games to the point where, okay, they have one preseason game in Oakland, and you've got 7 home games. You're flying off to London, and my point is, look, the NFL is not, as much as the NFL wants to be, it's not going to be international. Okay, I've come to that conclusion, and the reason it's not going to be international is because the violent state of play of pro football is uniquely American. I repeat, the violent state of play that is pro football is uniquely American. And it's not even repeated in rugby, which, as you know, doesn't have helmets and pads. It's just, so there's an automatic limit on how hard you think you can hit somebody, dictated by your own body. Pro football is not transferable that way. It's more expensive. It requires equipment, okay? It's not something that, and on top of that, something that in order for it to advance, it needs to be played in schools. That's done here in America. The football story, the American football story is just that, an American football story. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to think that by taking the Raiders around the world, it's automatically going to translate in this demand for the league that's unprecedented. No, the NBA has a better chance of being truly international, and for logical reasons, than the NFL does. There's a European league. You know what I'm saying. There's basketball played all around the world. We know this. There are NBA players that have played in Europe, and then there are European players that play in the NBA, right? Back and forth, back and forth. You don't have that in the NFL. So the Raiders they're doubling down on an ill-considered, ego-driven way. And that ill-considered, ego-driven way is, hey, we have a brand that we think other people are going to want. We know they're going to want. The only part of that entire endeavor that makes it possibly worthwhile from a monetary standpoint is the experience. You may have somebody that wants to go, who's a Raider fan, or a Cowboys fan, or an NFL fan that wants to buy the experience of being with their team overseas, right? But that in and of itself does not equal, it doesn't translate into that brand being popular internationally. If you look at the merchandise sales, which teams year in and year out sell the best? The ones that aren't relocating. The ones that aren't traveling around. The ones that have a base. The Dallas Cowboys, the New England Patriots, the San Francisco 49ers have routinely sold better than the Oakland Raiders. Shocking but true. And they also win. Okay? But think about the Cowboys. The Cowboys didn't spend a lot of time in the playoffs, and yet year after year after year, for decades, they've been among the tops in merchandise sales. That's not an accident, folks. And it's not because the Dallas Cowboys decided they were going to go and play their first game in London. So this move the Raiders have decided to embark on is completely stupid. I'll just say it straight out and bluntly. It's completely stupid. It's going to result in two things. First of all, it's going to result in a team that is more likely to lose the next game when they return because of environmental changes. And it's going to result in continued money losses in terms of merchandise sales because they're not minding the store at home. Okay? They're not minding the store at home. So this is not going to be the greatest year. They've got to win. The only way out of this is to win. That's the only hope that they have. I think there's a space for Derek Carr being AFC Player of the Year. But the reason why I didn't put out any video that says, hey, this is what's going to happen, I'm still running around in my mind, is because of that stupid travel idea. That's going to cost them. You have 5 games on the road or something like that, 4 or 5. You have a string of games where the Raiders are not even at home in the Coliseum at all. I mean, it's like they're sending every message they can to say, gee, we want to be out of here. Well, you know what? Instead of a behavior that really is bluntly immature, why don't they focus on the here and now? You're here right now. Be in the here and now. Do this. Make it work. Make it sing. Make it rain dollars. Okay? Then get ready for next year. If the stadium's not going to be ready, stay in Oakland. But all this childish behavior is annoying. It's annoying for a group that's of a team that's a multi-billion-dollar organization ran by adults to act as they do. Just straight out. And, you know, if you love the Raiders or the NFL or both, it really hurts to see it. And it does hurt to see it. Because I know, as sure as I wear this shirt, I know the Raiders can be ran better than they are. I know that. Mark needs to step back, stop trying to call the shots, and affect a different persona that makes a person say, I want to invest in that team. Okay? But instead, they're in Vegas, and as you can see, even with Las Vegas, it's the Raider way, right? It's not going just right. It always has this little snag. They're always trying to hide information from somebody. At some point, that's got to stop. Because in the 21st century, what worked, here's the problem. That may have worked for the Raiders in the 20th century, but it doesn't work for the Raiders in the 21st century. And because the very structure of the flow of information and the nature of how information is created today is antithetical to the Raider way. It doesn't work anymore. I mean, who ever heard of a football team being ran like the CIA anyway? It's ridiculous. Why do you think the Cowboys thrive? Because the Cowboys get that it's entertainment and that the idea is to put on the field a team that excites within a structure that people want to be in. Now, are the Raiders building that in Las Vegas? Yes. You'd be a fool to say otherwise. But it's the execution of that that harkens back to the old Raider way that makes getting there, or when they get there, cause me to ask the question, is this going to work? Is this going to work right? You know? It just has all these hairs on it. Hey, everybody. Hey, Barry Lee, welcome. How you doing? Pedro, Black Hole Barbecue says, I got buds from Australia, Czech Republic, and Holland who all met and worked to games in Europe. I have more European buds interested in going again. Raider Nation is worldwide. My point is this. You have buds that are from Australia, the Czech Republic, and Holland, and you said they all met and went to games in Europe, okay? But my point is, just because you have friends that do that, and you know them, you're all Raider fans, I never said the Raider fans didn't exist, all right? It's too small. just, I mean, look, it's not, there's, in these things, there's never an either or. You're acting as if there's a zero-sum game. In other words, hey, you either have fans or you don't. No, I'm saying from a standpoint, from a ledger perspective, a balance sheet, cost and benefit. Explain to me why it could, in and out, the most popular NFL teams in terms of merchandise sales and ticket sales are those that stay put. You tell me that. What you, the Black Hole Barbecue, the example you gave was anecdotal. It wasn't scientific. I can present to you a scientific presentation, numbers, just showing you, hey, look, you want to see it right now, the largest ticket sellers? I can show you right here. None of them have tried to relocate. Okay? None of them. And let me tell you something else, too. Just because the Raiders do something doesn't mean you have to defend everything that they do. Okay? Be smart. You can criticize something. All right? I will say when the Raiders do something well, like the PSL sales in Vegas. Ding! I've said that before, okay? This is stupid. I'm sorry. And I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I'm not sorry. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You pay attention to Oakland. Okay? Pay attention to Oakland. Because, you want to create that well of good karma that then carries you through life. But the Raiders have been the bad karma merchants. All right? No, Black Hole, it's not going to gain any momentum in Europe. I've heard that before. Look, I'll be 57 this year. I've heard that for 20 years. I heard that about NFL Europe because we had NFL Europe. And I don't know how, Black Hole, you obviously aren't that old or didn't pay attention. But I'm telling you something. There's a reason why NFL Europe didn't work. All right? We tried it. I've heard it before. I've heard it again and again and again. Pro football does not properly export. All right? It just doesn't. Okay? Pro football is an American story. You can like American culture and want to go to these things, but to think it's going to translate and we have all these teams in Europe and they're going to make money, no, it's not happening. Okay? There's no hue and cry in Europe or Canada for the NFL to be there. We have gone, this is 2019, and they're still trying this crap. It doesn't work. And the money they spend over there is money they should be spending in Oakland, and you and I both know it, okay? You all know it. Not just, I'm not talking to just you and Black Hole. I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking about everybody that might see this. You all know I'm right. You know it. The money the Raiders have spent on stuff like that, or let's just take the history, okay? The Raiders could have petitioned the NFL for a $220 million loan to upgrade the Coliseum, but they never did it. All right? They never did it. They always whined about the lease, okay? Oh, this isn't good enough for us. But they did nothing to fix it, unlike the A's, which are knowingly showing them up. The A's, hey, look, don't think the A's actions are just because the A's want to prove they're, a good business representative to the city of Oakland. Oh, yeah. But they also want to basically do this to the Raiders because they know the Raiders have been jerks. I'm telling you, the A's are sticking it to the Raiders because they know they can get it, because they're sending them a message to the people of Oakland. They're saying, hey, here is a sports organization that really likes you. This is what happens when a sports organization really likes you. Because Oakland hadn't experienced that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Oakland had not experienced that. So what the A's are doing is deliberate. It is in the face of the Raiders. And the Raiders ought to be embarrassed. Okay? And Black Hole, I agree with you. The Raiders need a football stadium, not a baseball stadium. I agree with you. But the Raiders could have continued those upgrades there and made it more of a football stadium and spent their own money, okay? Instead, what the Raiders let the A's do was spend their money to make the Coliseum look more like a baseball stadium. While the Raiders sat back and let it happen. Okay? So, no. The Raiders have not handled Oakland well right at all. Right or well at all. At all. At all. Okay? There's no defense of it. And it's stupid to try. You will not win. You don't do that with a home team, okay? You just don't. All right. Pedro Glass says, I remember in NFL Europe, it was just like the AAF and XFL with no elite players. Well, but here's the thing, Pedro. It's not so much... See, that's an American idea. How do you expect Europe to respond when they don't even know who the elite NFL players are at all? Their viewing habits are different. You know, it's not there. They're used to seeing people that don't have, you know, helmets on. That's why rugby's so popular. I see the NFL lost time by taking... I mean, here's what you did. They said, okay, we'll have NFL Europe, right? All right, they had it for a little bit and then didn't work, then they're gone. So there's that void. That means no advertising, no marketing, no nothing, okay? No nothing, all right? No black hole, you're not listening, okay? So you need to listen. I didn't say the Raiders, you didn't hear what I said. I'm talking about in history, back in history where the Raiders could have upgraded the Coliseum. Yeah, everybody knows they need their own football stadium. That's not an argument. But the A's need their own baseball stadium. What I'm trying to tell you is how you run a sports organization, how you make the best of your current situation, not wish for something that you can't afford to do at the time. So don't tell me that. I agree with you. The Raiders need their own stadium. Of course they do. But they went about getting one in Oakland the wrong way. Okay? Stop defending every little thing that they do. Be a critical thinker. Look at something and say, you know what, that's not right. But then, okay, well, that's right. And then know why. You know? Your barbecue tastes better. Actually, I've heard your barbecue tastes pretty good. But anyway. John Acala says, dumb idea for Raiders to play in Canada, even if it's only preseason. Stadium holds only 33,000. They would have made more money playing in Oakland, precisely. And Miguel Lundquist, how you doing? He says, just like the Philadelphia Eagles they built, the link across the street, which is a beautiful stadium, from Veterans Stadium, they still have great merchandise sales and ticket sales as well. Yep. Eric Richards says, Mark Davis hates Oakland. Yeah, I've heard that before. Black Hole says, negative, Raiders need a new stadium of their own, not share it with another sport. Hey, I agree. Although I will say this, though, because there is this possibility that Ultimate Fighting will be at Las Vegas Stadium, and that's another sport. So I think that's cool. So my point is, you need a stadium, you need a situation that you control, which the Raiders will, you know, for the most part, that includes other events. Because you have to remember, the Raiders are looking at a situation where they need 50. I hope so. Hold on a second. I hope so. They need 50 large-scale events. Yeah, large-scale events. I don't mean weddings, okay? Unless it's the wedding of, like, you know, two historic families that are, you know, drawing like 6,000 or 7,000 people each, or something like that, right? Can you imagine that? That'd be a huge wedding, wouldn't it? Can you imagine your wife says, I want to bring all of my family, and they're like 5,000. Whoa! Okay, where'd those folks come from? Just kidding. But my point is, and you can see by my facetious comparison, weddings aren't going to cut it. Eric Rich says, plus Las Vegas has no state tax. Okay. Rumor is Maurice K. Perkins brought it here. Rumor is Cliff Branch makes the Hall of Fame in 2020. Maurice, let's turn that around. Okay, let's not do this as a rumor. Let's do it this way. Okay, because of the way they meet. All right, let's do it this way. What do we have to do to get Cliff Branch in the Hall of Fame? Let's get him there. All right, instead of making predictions and standing on the outside, let's put ourselves on the inside. How do we make that happen? Question. All right. Cowboy says, Z, why does Davis hate Oakland so much? You are the insider. I think it's for a number of reasons, and I don't know if it's so much as a hate as I believe that, there's some things I want to say that I don't think. It's not the lawsuit. No, it's not the lawsuit, John. It's not. Let me put it this way. It's not for anything you know about, okay? It's interesting, human nature. People always try to reach for things they know about, and they think that's the reason. And no. It's for a set of very personal reasons that I'm not comfortable going into. I've had guests on my show from Forever Oakland that don't like Mark, and so they'll say things about Mark that I would never say. No, I will hold my tongue, okay? Black hole. No, I will hold my tongue. But it's a very personal set of reasons, and I think out of respect for Mark Davis, I'm not going to do that. And I've said it before, I like and respect Mark Davis. I'm not going to do that, okay? I'm not going to do that. Let me put it this way. What if you grew up in a neighborhood and you were bullied and people didn't like you and you didn't have the greatest childhood, all right? Would you, if you were given the chance to take on the family business, would you want to necessarily keep it in the area that wasn't necessarily the greatest to you? I think you know what the answer to that question is. Okay. So let's ask this question. Is it right for an entire fan base to be held hostage because of that? The answer is no. But that is the situation right now, and this is how far it's gotten, okay? Eric Rich says, I think Mark Davis is taking a lot of advice from Jerry Jones. And I do agree with you. Pedro says, how much do you compare? There's another reason for that, too, and I'll get to that. I'm glad you said that, Eric, because you reminded me of another point I want to make. Pedro Gallardo writes, how much do you compare the Raiders to the Giants and Jets situation since those teams play in another state? From where I live, Las Vegas is just an extra hour drive. They should stay in Oakland. They should, but see, Pedro, here's the situation, okay, on high. Davis, less than cool love for Oakland aside. It's not a hate. It's just, well, yeah, I mean, look, he lives other places. I was standing there when he and Alameda County Supervisor Sky Haggerty talked about meeting for golf, not around Oakland, but down in Palm Springs. Okay. Now I'm thinking to myself as I'm listening to this, Scott couldn't just say, knowing that the media guy is around, hey, we should play in Oakland somewhere we have great golf courses, right? He didn't even say that. Alameda County Supervisor Scott Haggerty didn't even say that. It was more like, hey, I want to go down to Mark's place and play golf in Palm Springs. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but look, you got to stick up for the region. You know what I mean? When other people are around and they're listening, you got to stick up for the region, okay? You got to stick up for the region. So he didn't do that. But my point is, Mark has been in other places. I remember he had dinner, I think it was, with my friend Julie Bueller down in Palm Springs. And, Mark is one of these fellows who he sees a beautiful woman and he thinks, hey, you know what, I'm more likely to meet the kind of woman I want in Southern California rather than Northern California or Las Vegas. Okay, it's more the glamour type with the heels and that sort of thing. Okay, that's my point. And he's a single guy. All right, and so there's a lot of that goes into it. And you say, why am I canting my eyes downward? Because I think it's sad for Raider fans that a group has to be held hostage that way. Now, having said that, I'll put on my Jerry Jones hat and say this. And I'll put on my NFL hat and I'll say this. That's Mark. But the league itself had established for itself an edict, an objective that that the local teams needed to pull in at least $25 million in annual revenue, that the teams needed to pull in at least $25 million in local revenue from the home areas. And the Raiders are not doing that. So the theory is, hey, if the Raiders are out of here, then the Niners have a greater ability to make that money. That's one idea. That's the Jerry Jones idea. The old school idea says, hey, you know what? They're better off in the area competing against each other and having these home-and-home preseason games, which they stopped doing, which for sad reasons of violence. Okay, but you're looking at the guy that the Raiders dispatched to reestablish the 400 preseason game. Me. They took my baby away. Anyway, but my point is that the reason for this push toward Mark seeking out gambling was part of that. And the University of Nevada, Las Vegas professor, I forgot his name, forgive me, please. I should get it right now. But and I should have that guy on my show. You know, I've said that before. At any rate, he wrote a document that if you haven't read it, you should read. It's 114 pages about how gambling, sports can work in gambling in Nevada. The proper controls to set up and everything. That did it. And I will say to you folks, I've said it before, and I want to remain consistent saying it again. I think Mark was brilliant for doing that. I think that was a smart thing to do. Now, the question is, can it be done in Oakland? The answer is yes. However, there are certain people in Oakland who are not want to have that happen. And Oakland, as it does, drags its feet on this sort of thing and doesn't. Oakland thinks here. Oakland contemplates its navel. It does not contemplate its future. All right? Las Vegas does not contemplate its navel. Las Vegas contemplates its future. That's the difference between Las Vegas and Oakland. I will say it again. Oakland contemplates its navel. It does not contemplate its future. Las Vegas contemplates its future. It does not contemplate its navel. Which explains why there's so many scantily clad folks walking around. They want you to say, oh, the navel's out. I'm just kidding. Anyway, but let me get to your comments. Let's see here. Blacko says, say it, then you don't tell your tongue. But at any rate, VR says, what you Z, let's get Tom Flores and Jim Plunkett into the Hall of Fame. I completely 1,000,000% agree. Tom Collar writes, in terms of spectators, the NFL Europe did great in Germany, but the media in Europe didn't cover this. There wasn't broadcasting the games or barely even an article in a newspaper. And now we have the internet. And see, that's going to make it even harder, a harder go, because you've got more people, an expanded population to reach. I just am of the opinion that the NFL should spend more time honing and refining the craft of its product in America rather than someplace else. And I think the NFL should do it in a face of declining wages and in a face of consistently changing media and communications technology. There are enough problems right here for the NFL to deal with rather than going overseas. If overseas wants them, let the overseas people pay for the media rights to the American games rather than having to go over there. And if they do go over there, make sure that somebody's willing to pay like a boko, like, $10 billion to establish the NFL in Europe. A $10 billion investment. Absent that, forget it. So 10 or 20 billion, absent that 20 billion. Absent that, forget it. Um, Eric Richards says, I think Mark Davis is taking a lot of advice from Jerry Jones. I agree. Because it was Jerry who spearheaded the relocation effort. And as I understand it, had spearheaded a lot of the actions that have made more money for teams, that have allowed them to reach that $25 million per home area threshold, right? Pedro asks, how much do you compare the Raiders to the Giants and Jets since those teams play in another state? From where I live, Las Vegas is 1 extra hour drive. They should stay in Oakland. There's a two-team. This is how I look at it. The San Francisco Bay Area is large enough to have 2 NFL teams, 2 NBA teams, and 2 Major League Baseball teams. All right? So, with successful fan bases, and those fan bases play off of each other, which adds to the local community discussions and activity that translate into revenue for each team. You would say, what do you mean, Zenny? What I mean is this. Let's say that you've got people who work in an office. Some of them, you have this, some of them are Giants fans, some of them are A's fans, right? And so it becomes this kind of fun thing. And so you go out, almost subconsciously from the perspective I'm talking about, you say, I'm going to buy my A's jersey because I want to represent the A's at work, right? Against my Giants fans and vice versa. But who does that benefit? You see what I'm getting at? It benefits the sports teams to have that competition. Same thing works for the Raiders. You all know what I'm talking about. You want to rep the colors at work or rep the colors before your clients. And maybe your clients are Niners fans. You want to give them a little ribbing, right? That simple act translates into money. And I contend that the NFL has not done a great job in playing up those rivalries. The Major League Baseball has done a better job of really playing up those rivalries, yeah? And the NBA hasn't played them up either. If the NBA played up those rivalries, one of the things they would say is, hey, look, we need to get a team in here to compete with the Warriors so that Oakland has its own team and Oakland can bash the Warriors and back and forth, right? Oakland versus San Francisco and so on, right? There's money in rivalries, okay? So, yeah, from that perspective, Pedro, I think the Raiders are better off in Oakland than in Las Vegas. Cowboy Wrestler says, Z, I experienced some bullying when I was a kid. We're talking about Mark Davis now. But I don't blame Antioch, California, or Contra Costa County for what happened. It's human life. It is, but there are some people who, and I have to say, I believe that Mark is, unfortunately, this way. I think he's overly sensitive to how he thinks people regard him. And I think if he spent more time liking who he was, he would realize there are people who do like him. And because he really does come off as if he thinks people don't like him. And if you want evidence of what I'm talking about, you just look at the tapes of how he's interacting with fans after the relocation, right? Look at how he's literally tried to pick arguments and fights with people. You don't do that unless you think people don't like you to begin with, and they're just, going about their daily business, and they'll be very happy for you as the principal owner of the Oakland Raiders to talk to them and sell them rather than being mean to them, okay? So there's something going on with him from a self-esteem perspective that has driven all of this, and it's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. And I don't say that to be mean, but he's a public figure. How Mark Davis has behaved is out there. It's on video. It's on video. Okay? So you can't say, well, gee, what are you talking about? All this speculations. This is ridiculous. You're being mean. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being analytical about what I think are the main drivers for why this situation of the Raiders' relocation to Las Vegas has occurred. Part of it is seeking for more money out of gambling that he thought he couldn't do here. The other part of it is because he doesn't want to be reminded of what happened to him in Oakland. And the third part of it is he just simply would rather be someplace else where the scene is more glamorous than Oakland, as opposed to building glamour around the brand in Oakland, which I think is exciting. The Raiders brand, I argue, is more valuable in Oakland than San Francisco. I know that's a controversial statement because Mark would say, Zinni, what are you talking about? There's activation over here in San Francisco. But you see, here's where I look at running a sports organization different from him. If I am running the Raiders, and if I have the Raiders in Oakland, I'm working with Oakland Economic Development, I'm working with the business community, I'm working with real estate to establish Raider-themed and Raider-branded developments downtown. Sports-themed developments, different sports, but under the Raiders umbrella brand of silver and black, and the kind of luxury brand that they've tried to export in Vegas, but toned down considerably for the fact that my fans are what we used to call blue collar, right? We play that up, okay? People want an identity today. Look at all the cosplayers around. Mark could bring in a kind of a Comic-Con. Do you ever know that WonderCon was born in Oakland? Mark could have brought in and said, hey, look, WonderCon, you're in Anaheim. We want you back here, and I'll set up a way to make it work up here. Because we were at Moscone Center, but we wanted it in Oakland. And then use that as a centerpiece for the introduction of the Raider brand. Raider players in uniform, right? Fans in uniform, fans in black. Okay? Different little ways to seed the community with a Raider brand. And you encourage what? You encourage people to buy the brand. To buy the brand. And it's already here. And you can make that with, things that happen, like, Ken Stabler ate at Joe Scone was here. Clem Daniels' end zone was there. You know what I mean? And maybe you have, like, Jim Otto in the style that the A's have Stomper. The A's have the Stomper statue all around Oakland. It's incredible. Some people criticize that they talk about the A's leaving. I'm thinking, are you crazy? The A's have branded the city. I went to the Kingfish Pub, North Oakland and Telegraph, a few months ago. There was Stomper sitting on the outside. I have a photograph of that. Stomper just sitting on the outside there. Okay? Beautiful thing. I think I've got this here, all right? And the Raiders could have done that. They're not even doing that in Las Vegas. Just brand the town. Brand the town. And make the town your own, okay? Make the town your own. Make Oakland your own. This is what I'm talking about regarding seeing Stomper. Take a look at, this was in front of, this was in Berkeley. Take a look, folks, okay? There you go. Two types of Stompers. That's the Kingfish. If you ever go in a Cal game, stop by there, all right? And, Kingfish, excuse me, right here. Which, see, it even says, this is the Kingfish Stomper. Kingfish Stomper. Presented by Kingfish Pub. And there's the Kingfish. Old Cal stomping grounds I haven't been to since big game of, not last year, but not this year, but the year before. Yeah, that's right. Maybe I'll stop in for old time's sake. I need to relax for a little bit. Go A's. Yeah, so they had two different types of stompers. They had that kind. And the Oakland A's stomper is everywhere. This is Stomper as Bat Boy there. That's the Kingfish Pub. And here's the other stomper right over here, there, in front of the Kingfish. Excuse me. Right here. So they had Stomper, the A's did, all over the place in front of the Grand Lake Theater. I think there were 50 places where Stomper was around the city of Oakland. That was cool. That's what I'm talking about, okay? Imagine the Raiders doing that with Jim Otto, like a Jim Otto statue. Having Jim Otto here, Jim Otto there, Jim Otto all over, just literally branding Oakland with the image of Jim Otto, Mr. Raider. That would be cool. Okay, so the Raiders have missed so many opportunities to really just make themselves one with the city even more than they already have been, that it's criminal. And they're not going to do that in Vegas either. But in Oakland, whoo, boy, they would have been loved forever. They could have written their stadium ticket. Oh, you want this? Oh, what? You want? Yeah, what? Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That's what you do. Blew it. Man, just saying, man, okay? Cowboy Rush writes, the 49ers are the Bay Area's team, period. They won that battle, and the 49ers won their 5th Super Bowl back in 94. See, Cowboy Wrestler, I disagree. And this is from the perspective of a person, because you're in Texas, okay? You're in Garland, right? I've been in Oakland, okay, I'm in Georgia right now, but I just flew back. But my point is, details aside, the fact of the matter is that I always looked at it as the 49ers are over there and the Raiders over here, and the Raiders own Oakland in the East Bay. I never once considered what you're saying. In fact, what you're saying is pure fantasy. The 49ers do not own the East Bay of Oakland or Oakland, and I'm telling you, they never will. You understand that? They never will. Get out of your head. John Acala says, what's your take on the challenging the pass interference and the changing? My take on the rule is that I like what John is talking about, for those of you who are not aware. And I doubt there's anyone here who isn't aware, but I'll just say. The LA Rams should have been called for pass interference in the NFC Championship game this year, and they weren't. Even as so much as they knocked the New Orleans Saints would-be pass receiver out of bounds, a pretty vicious hit. That it wasn't flagged is still, to me, a criminal act. The simple outcome of it not being flagged, to me, is criminal. Okay, so in the fast-reacting NFL, in reacting to an event that really questioned the integrity of the game, and starting at the NFL annual meeting, and then following up at the NFL Spring League meeting, there was an idea. There were 6 different proposals regarding pass interference that were adopted. To make a long story short, it all boiled down to was that the coaches now have the ability, after 2 minutes, to challenge a pass interference call or to call for one. So, for example, if a play happens and you and I look at it and say, hey, that's pass interference, well, now the coach can actually throw a flag and say, hey, you know what? I want to challenge that as pass interference. And that wasn't the case before. Everything went to New York. Everything went upstairs, past 2 minutes, right? They took that now, and now the way it's structured is that everything doesn't go to New York. The coach has an ability to throw the flag. Say, hey, that was pass interference. Hey, that was defensive holding. And I think that's great. I think anything a coach can do to assure a 50-50 balance by having the ability to engineer the outcome of a call is fantastic. You would say, what do I mean? What I mean by that is, and encapsulated in my statement, is a theoretical construct that if you and I, okay, and let's take this from a game theory perspective. If you and I are able to make calls, counter calls, in favor of our outcome, right? Then in total, it adds up to a 50-50 balance, whereby our actions of preserving our own possible positive outcome, we assure that there will be a right call that makes the game better overall. You're looking out for your interests. It's kind of a miniature marketplace. You're looking out for your interests. I'm looking out for mine. And so our actions do counter each other, okay? But because of that, in terms of outcome, we meet in the middle. And what I'm saying is, from that standpoint, I love it. I think from a game theory standpoint, I thought it was and I'm not saying the NFL thought of it this way, but I'm thinking of it this way. From a game theory standpoint, yeah, I think it's the perfect outcome. I think it's the perfect decision. I think it's going to work exceptionally well. I really do. John Acala says, what's your take on the... I got that, I'm sorry. Cowboy Rush says, NFL on TSN. Pedro says, Raider Hernandez. Pedro Raider Hernandez, how are you? Pedro says, I rep Raiders all day, every day. All I wear is Raider gear. I wear my Raiders safety vest I just bought. See? And see, Pedro, that's what I'm talking about. And, you know, if you are in an environment where you have Niner fans, you're going to be deliberately repping that all day, right? But all that goes together. That's something that I think is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's fun. And we live in a time where people are repping their, not just colors of the Raiders, they're repping colors of Marvel Comics, you know, characters. You've got people running around who are dressing like Wonder Woman, although you don't see them dressed as Wonder Woman all day long. You get the idea, okay? I just have to think about that one for a bit. But at any rate, there are people who wear Spider-Man pajamas, right? You get the idea. Anyway, Cowboy Rush says, Z, I think the Chargers-Rams rivalry is going to be good in the years to come. I agree. And even then, I think the NFL needs to do a better job of playing that up. It's more than just being in the same stadium. It really is. Donis, how you doing? Donis says, Mark Davis is his own worst enemy. Yeah. Yeah, sadly. Sadly. See, when I see Mark, I still see Mark Davis as his mother's son. And I think that's why I have a soft spot for him. There's still in him a hurt kid. Okay? And sometimes, to me, he seems like he's a little under siege at points. And, you know, I apologize for being on the side of that where it looks like I'm one of the people delivering that. Because I don't, by nature of who I am, like to be there. But heck, you know what? Wrongs are wrong. Okay? Should be treating people like that, Mark. Take your team away from them, not tell them the truth. So, it's nothing personal. It's only business. I've said that before. Oh, my goodness. And Kevin KD says, the 49ers... I want you to see this, Cowboy Wrestler. The 49ers don't have an East Bay fan base at all. Thank you, Kevin KD. Oh, my Lord. Sean, you put in $2. I still have to add you to the shareholder till. So I've got some catching up to do. You did that 3 days ago. Thank you. Okay, so it is 1:35, and I'm going to shove off. I'll talk about I will talk about the NBA draft maybe tomorrow during the day. But Friday night, no. because Friday night I am going to take care of moi. Yeah. Maybe I'll see Chucky. Yeah, Child's Play. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Because I've never seen a horror movie by myself. And I'm not going to start. So I've always taken my girlfriend to see it, or a girl I was dating, to see a horror movie. Horror movies are for dating. Every horror movie I've ever seen in a theater, I've seen with a woman I was dating. Period. Yeah. Never missed a beat. No, once. That was my freshman year at Texas Arlington when my roommate Reggie and I went down to the midnight movie because we heard the Zetas were hanging out there and we wanted to meet the sorority girls, right? So we went down to see, of all things, John Carpenter's Halloween. Yeah, you heard me. John Carpenter's Halloween. And it was hilarious because, it has some scenes in there where nothing really happens, but you think something's going to happen, so it's scream-inducing. And so they're talking about 120 women. So if you wanted to get married, that was the place to be, in theory. I say only in theory because it didn't work out in actual practice. But at any rate, if I had a son, I would tell him to do the same thing. You want to meet these girls, man. You got to go to a horror movie. But they would start screaming. And Reggie and I were like, what are they screaming about? Ah! And they're like, oh, it's nothing. And then suddenly, ah! Oh, that was hilarious. That was the only time. All right. Anyway, John Collins says, going to the 49er game in October, but I heard it's not very roomy to tailgate, or am I wrong? It's not a layout like the Coliseum, okay? There's room to tailgate, sure. But in terms of roomy, I have, in all honesty, I've never tailgated down there, so I can't tell you. I would, maybe somebody else knows around here who's watching or everything else. Donus says John Carpenter is a legend. Sure is. John Carpenter is a legend. Yeah. Which begs, okay, question for the flock as I ease on out the door. What is the best horror movie ever made, in your opinion? Okay. Now, I say it's Halloween. I say that Halloween is the best horror movie ever made. What say you? And I realize there's a delay here, so okay. Oh, John Collins says The Exorcist. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Anybody else? So we got one for The Exorcist, one for Halloween. Scream. Ah, good one. Donut says Scream. Another good one. Okay, so that's Scream. Okay. Anyone for Aliens? Or Alien? I would say Alien. I would say Alien's a solid number 2 or 3 somewhere in there. Or 4, okay. 5. Alien, okay. So I'll write Alien. So I'll write Halloween. V? Was V a horror movie? You mean V for Vendetta? I didn't see that as a horror movie. I watched that 3 times. That never struck me as a horror movie. It struck me as weird, but a horror movie is the last thing I would call it. Suspense, yeah. Eclectic, definitely. Horror, nah. I don't see that one. No. Calvert says, "Oh my God, I hate the first Alien movie." Why? But look, hate aside, did it scare you? Donut says, sci-fi? What do you mean? V was more science fiction. Yeah, yeah. V was more science fiction, but horror, nah. No. It's just like the giant monster movies. You know, like they weren't horror; they were sci-fi. Okay. Um, Frankenstein was a horror movie, a good one, not the best. Dracula was good. With anyone ever see Dracula, Bela Lugosi, or The Mummy? You know, those are good. Those are really good. All right, it's 1:41, folks. I could keep this up all day long or night, but get to bed at a normal hour. I'll see you all later, and Friday much earlier in the day. Possibly Saturday, definitely Sunday. I have not seen Paranormal Activity. Friday the 13th, another good one, which arguably could be number one. Okay, you're right. Anybody following women's soccer, by the way? Anybody following Women's World Cup? I gotta start paying attention to that. All right, folks. See you later.